And this is a Galaxy Log special, observing sessions with refractors. And I have a guest on this one. It's Rob Cordivari of the Chesapeake Astronomical Society. And Rob's been a long time observing partner with me for over 3 decades. Our guest's getting over 3 decades now. Right, right, Rob?
Absolutely.
Belmont?
1993.
1993. And we've been observing together many nights, and some really spectacular nights. And Rob, like I do, and of course we've been watching Galaxy Log, has also larger telescopes, but we also have refractors. And I want to talk about observing galaxies with refractors. And you know, a couple of years ago, back in 2016, I did a special Galaxy Log video, which is actually my #1 video on Galaxy Log, called A Decade with the Beast, with the 8-inch f9 APM refractor. My love of refractors, well, of course, I started back when I was a kid, back in the late 60s, with a 60 millimeter. And soon after that, I went into the Newtonians and never looked back from the getting bigger and bigger, especially when the Dobsonian revolution came around. And then I guess it was late 90s, I actually had the 22-inch Dob, and I just felt like getting a smaller scope of refractor. And I bought a 120, I guess it was an f8.3 or something like that, Orion refractor. And I remember taking it out just in the yard, not really dark skies, but okay skies. And look, I saw the Ring Nebula through it, the dumbbell, and I was like, wow, this is really great views for a small telescope. It was kind of like, wow, that was when I kind of got the refractor bug. And then through the early 2000s, I went through my thing with various 6-inch refractors. In fact, Rob, you bought one of mine. It was actually my last 6-inch refractor. And then, of course, in 2006, was the granddaddy of them all, was receiving the APM 8-inch f9 refractor. And I've done many a Galaxy Log using the 8-inch f9 refractor, and it really gave those, as we say, those refractor views. So I figured, to do a special on observing galaxies with refractors. And here is my first image that we're going to talk about. And this was basically most of my view for the last 2 months of the night sky. A lot of clouds. It has not been a good 2 months. And in fact, this past dark window here in January, the only clear night was the night you were out, which Rob will be talking about in a few moments. And I couldn't get out that night. So, or up to the dark site. So later that night, I actually took out, it was actually late at night. I was taking the dogs out, and it was after midnight. And I noticed it was, of course, still clear. You were up at the dark site. So I figured, you know what? I'll take my grab and go refractor, which is an Explorer Scientific 4-inch f6.47 refractor. I have a Rigel quick finder on top instead of a typical finder. And it's on an Explorer Scientific Twilight 1 mount with slow motion controls. It's a really good, nice grab and go scope to take out, and it actually gives pretty good images. It's an achromat, but it does have some really nice optics in it. And I just did a quick couple galaxies with it, and because it was late, and I just felt, I'm just going to do a real quick session with it. So this was NGC 2841 at Ursa Major, and I used a 9mm eyepiece, which gave me 73 magnification. Sky conditions I rated fair, and I know you had much better skies where you were, but here at home it was just fair. But I was able to see some nice detail in the galaxy. It is a really good galaxy. It's bright. Has a good high surface brightness. It's large. And what I saw is a little faint stellar nucleus, and could see faintly its elongation. But it was a nice view to be able to see a galaxy. I have other galaxy logs that I've done with this galaxy, and in fact, it's funny because speaking of the 22-inch Dob, this was actually first light for the 22 back in the late 90s. And then went over to Leo and did 2903. And here again, it's a bright galaxy, a little lower surface brightness than 2841, a little bit bigger galaxy. And I backed down the magnification. It was 12 millimeter at 55 magnification. And the galaxy was okay. It was a decent view. It does have a lower surface brightness in 2841, so it doesn't stand out as much. And so it was basically an oval glow with a slight brightening in the center. That's pretty much what I saw. In darker skies with the 4-inch refractor, you can pick up a little bit more detail, but under these skies like that, this is basically what I saw. So, but it was nice to see a galaxy, and that was it. And I brought the scope in, and then we have a surprise. Okay. Well, I just picked up a new telescope.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, it is to basically replace the 4-inch as the grab and go, it's going to be more used than the 4-inch. I'll probably use the 4-inch. I have a solar filter for it, so I'm going to do more solar observing the 4-inch, but I'll still use the 4-inch once in a while. But I wanted something with a little more aperture, just maybe a better overall scope. And here's another view of it, a little bit better view. And it's the Meade LX85, 120 millimeter, almost 4 3/4 inch, f5.8 refractor. It's an achromat, and it works really well. It's just slightly longer focal length. The 4-inch is 660 millimeters. This is 700 millimeters. But you get about 40%, almost 40% more aperture, which is always nice, right? The finder scope is real nice. It came with this nice 8x50 finder scope that's actually has a little helical focuser on it, so it can focus. And the other thing that has a great advantage, not only the larger optics, is it has a larger focuser. The focuser for the 4-inch is like 40 millimeters, so it can only handle 1 1/4 inch eyepieces. This is a 2-inch focuser, so I can use. It came with this nice 2-inch diagonal also, so now I can use 2-inch eyepieces also.
So how big is the focuser?
It's a 2-inch. It can use 2-inch. 2-inch. It can use 2-inch eyepieces now. So I have a 2-inch diagonal, where the 4-inch is limited to 1 1/4.
Right.
So I had then first unofficial light, because it's always, you get a new scope, you're always wondering, okay, how the optics are going to be. And the optics are real good. I was real surprised. And if you look, this was just the other night, and this was at 3:40 in the morning. The moon was just setting around that time, and I really wanted to test the scope. I really wanted to see some galaxies with it. So I actually laid down in the family room for a couple hours, had set the alarm on my phone, and got up about 3 o'clock or so, and went outside, because earlier on it was cloudy, of course. And so I went out around 3 o'clock. I woke up about 3 o'clock, went outside, it was clear. So, set the scope up and went out and observed. And this was first unofficial light with it, because I always usually say official light at a dark site, not so much home where you have brighter skies and so on. But here is, it was with a 12 millimeter. And so it gave me a little bit more magnification, be a little longer focal length, 58. I also rated the sky conditions fair. I'm certain at the dark sites it was much better, but it was pretty good. It was pretty transparent. But I got a really nice view of both M81 and M82. And actually, I pumped the power up and looked at M82 and was able to see some nice detail. I could actually see the dark lane, no problem on that. So I was real impressed. And then I also went back to these two to see how much of a difference I could see between the 4-inch refractor and the 4.7, and definitely they stood out much better. The central core area of 2841 was larger, brighter. It almost looked like a small unresolved globular cluster. The Galaxy just stood out much more. And then in 2903, unlike here with the 4-inch, I could actually see some inner structure, a much brighter core. So that aperture really helped. That 40% gain really helped. So, yeah, I'm liking the scope. The optics seem really well. I also looked at the sombrero, and I actually put in, believe it or not, thank goodness for the slow motion controls, a 3.2 millimeter eyepiece, which is like almost 220 power, and it gave the sombrero a really good, really nice view. So I'm
So
very
what
pleased.
time was this? You were actually able to get the sombrero?
Yeah, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning by that
Oh,
time.
man.
Yeah. So hey, you got to do what you can do. It's
That's
whatever.
right.
Skies are clear. But it was basically a test of the optics to see how the optics are. The star images were real nice, nice and crisp, and really gave that, even though it's an achromat, it really gave that nice refractor view of a good dark background sky, even with lower magnification, and the sky and the stars were nice and crisp and tight. So this will be my newest grab and go scope. It fits the mount perfectly. Weight wise, with the diagonal eyepiece, it's probably about 11.5 pounds, where I think the 4-inch is just under 10. So it's a little heavier, of course, being a larger telescope. These mounts can handle like 18 pounds or so. So it's fine with that. Plus it's a shorter tube. So it will be my main grab and go scope. And also I'm thinking that because it is compact, the mount is compact and easy to transport, even with I'm taking one of the larger scopes. I'm thinking of using this a lot as a second scope out at the dark sites. So if I'm taking a 22 out, I'll have this guy alongside, or the 12-inch out, I'll have this guy also. So
nice.
yeah, so it'll be nice to have like that second scope. Plus, you can imagine it's going to be some really nice wide field views of some of our darker sites of going through like the Virgo cluster. So I was really thinking about that, especially with like a 2-inch eyepiece. So I'm anxious to use that. But so it's a surprise, and I'm hoping it's not going to get as cloud of skies coming from February with new glass. So that's
amazing.
Yeah. So all right, so that's it for me. So now I'm going to hand the reins over to Rob, and Rob had a really nice night. Basically, that same night that I couldn't make it up to a dark site, and even though you have a 20-inch, what's your 20's a what
F3? 20-inch F3.
Yeah,
with a Lockwood mirror and a JP Astrocraft body.
Yeah. So as you can tell, Rob is a very experienced observer with larger telescopes, but he's got a little bit of the refractor bug in him, and he went out and got him. He's had some other refractors, but Rob went out and bought himself what I consider a very fine high-end refractor, and I guess he'll talk about it now and his experience with observing at a dark site with it.
Well, thanks, and thanks for having me on it. This is awesome. Enjoy your Galaxy logs for years, so it's nice to be part of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I end up into the refractors was mainly from your views through the Beast.
Right.
Was one that really got me interested in seeing those. I think you used to refer to them as high definition, like the HD version of observing. And I was always intrigued by that. But of course, I was always into the larger aperture too. But larger telescopes come with their advantages and disadvantages. And one of the disadvantages is they take up a lot of space. They're big to lug around. And what I found, and you know this from the years we've observed together, is that I go to vacation up in the Adirondacks every summer, and more we've been able to spend more and more time up there. But I can't fit the 20-inch in the car with everything else that's going. So I needed to make a decision. And at first I thought I might go to like an 8 or 10-inch Dob. But I got sold on the idea of getting the refractor. So I ended up buying from you that 6-inch Explore Scientific. And I used that for a few years. And, I really loved the views through that. It was a great telescope, and it was very reasonably priced. It was a great bang for the buck. But I got frustrated observing up in the Adirondacks under such dark skies without a higher quality telescope. And since I couldn't take the 20-inch up there, I decided to go with the higher quality refractor. That's how I ended up with the APM 140. It's a f7, 980 millimeter focal length. This one has a 3.7-inch focuser, which I do not need, but that was the one that was available. It's the only one available in the country when I was buying. And they told me if I wanted the 2-inch or 2.5-inch version, I'd have to wait for them to ship it from Germany. And, I was too impatient for that. So I ended up buying it from Lynx. And they offered me a compromise on the price between the 2.5-inch focuser and the 3.7 because they wanted to get rid of it. So I got a really good deal, really good price on it. And I'm just thrilled with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up, hold on for a second. All right. So let me share my screen. And I'll show you some pictures of it. Okay. All right, let me know if that's up there now.
Yeah, it's up there. Yep.
Okay. So this is it. This is the APM 140 f7. It's a doublet APO. And the views through this are just phenomenal. And, when I compare it to the 6-inch 152 that I had, it's substantial as far as the blackness of the background, the sharpness of the images, and the lack of any, like false colors sneaking in. So, very, very noticeable. And I did get a chance to observe with it up in the Adirondacks under a very dark site. Probably not a black location, probably, I think it was a blue, in the blue. But just a beautiful spot south of Lake Placid, but far enough away where the lights from Lake Placid aren't too much of a bother. And I got some really phenomenal views through it. And it's on this, I have this Vixen Advanced VX mount, and or Celestron, I'm sorry, Advanced VX mount. And I love this combination because the mount is strong enough to handle this telescope. And the mount's very accurate. And I really love this combination because once I get it set up and going, I never have to search for anything. It shows up in the eyepiece all the time. The mount's very accurate. Telescope's just pushing the limits of the mount, but there's still a few pounds extra there. If I wanted to put some photographic equipment on it, I could, but I'm not going to. This is another view of it. And I'm using this Explore Scientific Finder scope too. So that combination works very well. So I had a chance to have this out in the last dark window. It was very, very cold, and the sky conditions had been so unpredictable that on the night that I was going out, I didn't want to load up the 20, even though I could have, because I wasn't sure what the sky was going to do. Now, when I got out there, I kind of wished I had taken the 20, but after I settled in, I was really glad to have this out under a pretty good night. The seeing was good and the transparency was good, a rare combination this time of the year. So I had a pretty good night with it. So I'll show you some of the views that I had, some of the galaxies that I pulled in. So the first one, which you already talked about, NGC 2903 in Leo. So this is a galaxy that, Carl, I was telling you when we were talking about doing this together, that I looked at this galaxy 1,000 times. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at it. And it was one of those nights where some things were just popping in and making me re-look at them. And I think it was because of the refractor view. Not that obviously the view through the 140 millimeter refractor would be better than the 20-inch. I think I just saw it differently. Right. And what I was able to see was a lot of that modeling. Well, obviously I could see the nucleus very well, but I could see those dark patches. So what I'd be seeing here is like right above the nucleus, you see that kind of modeling up there. Right. Yep. Now, obviously I couldn't get those other, like those top and bottom wisps that they're coming out in the photograph. I couldn't see those, but I was really stunned by the detail I could see in that modeling of those dark patches. And obviously the nucleus was very large. So I was really, really floored by that image. And I actually looked at it twice. First, early on, just, I was kind of just tooling around, testing to go to, and it was low, and the view was so good. I waited about an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then I came back to it, and it was just stunning. So this is an object that, you can look at this through a 3-inch telescope. You can see it in your finder scope, but the 140 and the high contrast just seem to make a really high detailed image, and also a very aesthetically pleasing image. So I was really pleased with that. All right, moving on. We kind of hit some of the same ones here.
Yep. That's funny, but you saw them all differently, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's per telescope.
So 2841, this is one that I look at a lot when I'm out, especially this time of the year. And, because in the springtime when Ursa Major is rising, you see that asterism of the Big Dipper coming up in the east, and you forget that 2841 is already up.
Yep.
So by the time you see that asterism, it's like, okay, wow, when the whole asterism is sitting there, 2841's in a pretty good spot. Yeah. And I got a pretty good view of it. I think that part of the sky at that time I was looking at 2841 might have been just a little weaker for a while when I was looking at it, but you could see, you can tell that it's kind of elongated, and you can see that dark structure kind of here. It would be towards the back end of the on the one side, the back end of this view. And again, this is a real easy galaxy to see a lot of detail in, and it showed up very, very well in the telescope. So I was really interested in this one too. I do want to see this again the next time I have the refractor out. If I could get it under maybe just a little higher. Like I said, the sky in that area was kind of going in and out a little bit at the time I was looking at it. So I didn't spend a real lot of time on 2841. I spent more time on 2903. But it's a 9th magnitude galaxy, so it's easy to easy to spot.
Right.
Next on the list, this was not a good image that I pulled up, so I can't really say this is not really indicative of what I saw. It's kind of indicative as far as the field of view, but obviously if you look at 3628, I didn't see that kind of detail in it. But this is M65 and M66. You could clearly see the different shapes between 66 and 65. Those are both ARP galaxies, I believe.
Yeah.
Can you confirm that, Carl?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Not off the top of my head. But I think it might. I don't know if 3628 is the ARP galaxy.
No, not 3628, but 65 and 66.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not certain about that off the top of my head. I don't want to say yes without being certain.
Well, the interesting thing about this was that it was a really good contrast between the Bright 2 galaxies and the 3628 Edge-on.
Mm-hmm.
And I viewed these through a 17 millimeter, and I could get them both in. I mean, all three of them in, and it made a very good view. I don't think this field of view actually does represent very indicative of what I saw. This image didn't come out the way I wanted it, because it was more, they were edge to edge on the field of view.
Right.
But a very aesthetically pleasing view, like I said, because of the brighter 2 galaxies with the wispier low surface brightness 3628. That was actually very, very cool to see. Yep. And the next, this I think was probably, well, I was going to say the highlight of the night, but really the next one will be the highlight of the night. But this was really cool. This is ARP 94 in Leo. And I know you're familiar with this grouping, this 3226 and 3227. They're a little fainter. And the thing that I liked about them was that I could see some detail in them, which, I was surprised, pretty amazing through a 5.5-inch telescope. What I was seeing, I could definitely see like a bright nucleus in both of them. 3226 is a little brighter, not by a lot, but they kind of look like two eyes staring out at you. But they were definitely, you kind of could get the sense that they're interacting galaxies even through the mid-size refractor like that. Right. I guess it's kind of on the larger side of refractor. Yeah. But I'm at only at 166 magnification, 166 power. So that's not really high. And I was seeing a lot of detail in it. Certainly the nucleus, and then I could see a little of the arms, the halos around the nucleus.
Right.
These made a really interesting view for the night, and I was I just got stuck on them for a little bit, because it's more like what we've talked about before. It's like knowing what you're looking at as opposed to actually what you're seeing. So for a non-experienced observer, they might look in the eyepiece and say, I don't get it. Right. I'm just seeing like two little bright dots and maybe a fuzzy little patch. But, knowing that you're looking at an interacting pair of galaxies was kind of cool. Yep. And, so I was very pleased with this image. And then moving on for the last object of the night is one of my all-time, if not my all-time favorite galaxies. I don't know if I would call it my absolute favorite. It's just a galaxy that I can't get enough of, though. And I would put like M104 and 4565 up there as, my favorites. But this one just seems to never disappoint. And I think it's because it's just so bright. Yeah. And they call it the UFO galaxy. Yeah. And I'm always amazed that you can always see, especially when I'm looking at it through the 20, you can always see that one end, the end that's facing up here, extends out a little more than the other end.
Mm-hmm.
I always see that in the 20. But I was not expecting to be able to pick that up so easily in the refractor, and it was very similar to this image, to tell you the truth. It was very noticeable that one end was extending more than the other, and obviously the core was just as bright as could be, and you could pick out that modeling in there. So it's just a galaxy that never seems to disappoint me, and I don't get tired of looking at it, and I seem to see new things in it each time. And one of the things that I saw in this view this time, which I don't see in the 20, is that little asterism down below it.
Right.
It's just a really interesting, aesthetically pleasing view between those very bright stars. It looked to me, when I was looking at it through the eyepiece, I think I mentioned to you, it kind of looked like the teapot a little bit in Sagittarius.
Yeah.
But the combination of those stars and the galaxy, they kind of played off of one another. And I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking. Sometimes it's even more helpful when there are certain stars in the field of view, and I'm not sure why that is, but it seems that you, I don't know if it's, maybe your eye is dancing around, and when you're looking at the stars, you're inadvertently getting averted vision and not trying to, but there's something about making the contrast between the galaxy and the bright stars that really enhances the image. Yeah. And they're not bright enough to be distracting, right, but they're just bright enough to kind of add to the overall aesthetic of the view.
Right.
So I moved my refractor up a few notches in my local deep sky observing, instead of it just becoming a vacation telescope or a grab and go for my driveway. I can see nights in the wintertime where, if it's not a slam dunk for the weather, unless we get forecasts where we go, oh man, tonight's a go. It's a slam dunk. It's going to be a good night. Load up to 20. But if there's any doubts, I have no qualms now about throwing the refractor in the car and going, and not feeling that I'm going to sacrifice anything, because the views through it are pleasing enough and detailed enough, when you compare it to the ease of setup and observing,
right,
to make it a worthwhile deep sky scope for me. So I couldn't be happier.
Very good, very good.
So
okay,
that's it.
All right, Rob, I appreciate it. So I'm really thanking you for this tonight, and sharing your galaxy views through your very beautiful and high-end and fairly large refractor. It does show that what they can do in the field, and it's the 8-inch was, for me, the ultimate like that. But it was time for me to let it go, and I let it go a little over a year ago, I guess it was, maybe closer to 2 years now. But it is nice where I do miss it, because of those refractor views, as we say. But that's the way it is. And now I have the two smaller refractors, and I'm fine with that as my grab and go and my secondary scopes. But you'll be seeing more galaxies and view through those telescopes in upcoming galaxy logs. And like I said, I'm looking forward to them as being sidekicks with the larger telescopes, and also doing some galaxy observing with them. So, all right, well, again, thank you very much, Rob. And that's it for this special edition of Galaxy Log.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on the new scope. That is a surprise.
Thanks.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. I can't wait to see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So clear dark skies and happy galaxy observing.
Let's do it.